Hello friends, welcome to yet another session on essay perspectives. The topic for today is education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school. Friends, as always, I have a personal appeal. My third edition of my book Ethics, Integrity and Aptitude has unfortunately been pirated. Pirated copies are of very low paper and print quality. I urge all the aspirants to buy original. This essay can be conceptualized as being made of these components. First we would introduce the essay, then we would develop upon the essence of the topic, then we would discuss about the limitations of school education, then we would talk about merits of school education, then we would ponder as to what is the best form of education, and then we would conclude. Friends, as soon as I saw this topic, two personalities struck my mind. So one is Arunachalam Muruganathan, the padman of India, and another one is the former CEO of McKinsey, Rajat Gupta. So friends, first one is Arunachalam Muruganathan had practically no school education. He dropped out of school at the age of 14 itself. Yet he identified one of the most serious problems being faced by rural women who were mostly poor. They could not afford a sanitary pad being manufactured and sold by a multinational company. So he understood the social problem. He had that empathy towards women. Then he was creative enough to think of various ways and means to come up with a sanitary pad at a very cheap price. So then he invented a machine. He was creative enough, he was innovative enough to come up with a machine that would manufacture sanitary pads at a cheaper price. Correct? So he had no education, but yet he addressed one of the most serious and severe problems being faced by Indian women. Then comes the case of Rajat Gupta. Rajat Gupta was a highly educated individual who learned, who graduated from top technical schools and top business schools in the country. Yet he was framed for insider trading. He was jailed in US for insider trading. Correct? So that means here we are juxtaposing two persons. One, practically a person with no formal education addressing a serious problem, and another person who was highly educated yet indulged in a financial crime. Correct? Friends, these two examples make us amply clear that it is not formal scholastic education that makes an individual what he or she is. It is the qualities that an individual possesses beyond the scholastic education is what makes a man what he or she is. Okay, so friends, let's move on. First, let us delve deep into the essence of the topic. So the topic contains two key terms, basically education and scholastic education. Okay, friends, what is basically education? Friends, education essentially means personality development. Simple. Education is a process in which a person's personality is developed, right? Correct? Then that's what Swami Vivekananda also meant when he said education is the manifestation of the perfection that is already in the man. Correct? So that means the human being is perfect from within, but that perfection does not get manifested. It is the duty of the education to bring that perfection to light. Correct? So then what is scholastic education? Friends, observe the word scholastic. Scholastic means school. The word scholastic and school are derived from the same root word. So basically scholastic education means the education imparted in the academic institutions like schools and colleges. This scholastic education is mostly in the nature of imparting of knowledge, imparting of information. So that is what scholastic education essentially means: imparting of information, imparting of established knowledge. It is mostly a concrete way of enhancing and expanding the knowledge and understanding of an individual. So that is the whole objective of scholastic education. So then what is the meaning of statement? So the statement essentially means true personality development does not happen with scholastic education. True personality development does not happen with imparting of knowledge or information, which is the mainstay of education in academic institutions like school. So thus the statement is very much critical about the way just information is fed into the minds of students, and their assessment is and their level of success is measured through scholastic tests. So that is what this statement essentially means. So it is being critical of the existing school system. It says that the real education is antithesis to what is being taught in schools and colleges. Correct? Then if whatever is taught in schools and colleges is not education, then what is the holistic concept of education? What does education actually mean? As I already told you, education means personality development, overall personality development. Overall personality development means, according to me, a human being should have some 4 important personality development dimensions. The first one is physical dimension. That means education should create individuals who are healthy and who are very strong, physically very strong individuals, physically healthy individuals. Then comes the second dimension, the next dimension, which is mental dimension. Mental dimension means an individual, the schools should attempt to develop critical thinking, lateral thinking, mental alertness in individuals. So third comes moral dimension. So education should essentially instill a very firm sense of morality in the individuals. Also, the individuals should be made to possess the firm, steadfast commitment to stand for morality even in the face of adversaries. So thus mental strength coupled with moral sense is what is essential. Then the last dimension is spiritual dimension, basically emotional dimension. What I actually mean is, so the individuals should not get themselves subordinated to human emotions. Individuals should be in a position to control the emotions. They should always maintain poise, they should always maintain composure, they should not get carried away by anger, depression, etc., etc. So thus if education seeks to build physically healthy, mentally alert, morally sound, spiritually aware individuals, then that education is what I would call holistic concept of education. Of course, friends, it is your essay. You are free to add more dimensions to call an education a holistic education, because see, this essay essentially is trying to criticize the education that is being taught in schools, formal schools and colleges, right? So when you are criticizing, then you should be in a position to argue as to what is not being taught properly in that school, what is that purpose of education which is not being served by the regular schools. So then that purpose which has to be defined by you in essay. So I would define that purpose as this. Okay, so of course you are free to think and free to take your own views on that. Since this topic argues that education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learnt in the school, it is important for us to highlight the limitations of scholastic education first. So friends, first thing is, scholastic education focuses on mere imparting of information. Scholastic education, it is unfortunate, it just imparts information, it does not test, it does not even impart understanding or knowledge for that matter. So we have seen, commerce students should be able to relate better with me. In most of the cases, all the accounts problems would be in the form of formats. So there would be some standard formats are given, so students are just asked to fill the information in the format to arrive at a solution. Same is the case with mathematics, right? So some standard formula are arrived, and it is hardly the understanding behind behind designing that formula, etc., is not at all that understanding is not at all imparted to any student. So that means only information is fed. So even about, let us say, about freedom struggle, only information about freedom struggle is fed, but the context and the idea behind the context and the idea behind the movements, etc., is not not infused into the minds of students. So that's the problem. The second thing is again rote memorization. See, when it comes to the assessments, actually it is the accumulation of information or the memory is what matters, nothing beyond rote memorization. Correct? So you have to just memorize the stuff, and then you have to memorize the stuff, and you have to reproduce the stuff actually. So it's rote memorization. The question paper is also set in such a way that only the information is tested, not the understanding is tested. So the scholastic education merely based on feeding the information and and expecting the student to retain that information. So third thing is vocational skills are altogether absent in the scholastic education. So a commerce student is just taught the definition of business. He is just taught the definition of marketing, but he is not equipped with the requisite skill sets to commence a business, to do marketing. We hardly have any any courses, right? So unfortunately, in countries like India, where the practical aspects are altogether missing. Similarly, vocational skills like the plumbing, electrician, other skills, actually that is not at all imparted in the mainstream education. A student has to enroll for separate courses and learn, or he has to join as an apprentice to an established person, and then he has to learn the work. So thus vocational skills are altogether missing in the scholastic education. And then no wholesome personality development, that I have already told you, that the physical, mental, moral, spiritual personality development is not at all given any weightage. Then stifling of creativity. So we have always said, we have always observed, the creativity is hardly encouraged in the scholastic education. A student who questions the existing theorems, existing principles, is mostly mocked at, rather than being encouraged to question before admitting the thesis. Correct? So also, friends, we learn geography, but the student takes out a world map, India map, and tries to map everything on that, applaud the places, etc., etc. But do we really have an education system wherein a student is allowed to prepare a map of his home, prepare a map of his a small suburb or his locality? No, he doesn't even map the route from his school to home. So thus it does not build creativity at all. Students are not allowed to design their own, or not allowed or expected or encouraged to design their own scientific experiments. No, not at all. So thus the over a period of time, when the mind is not allowed to think and create nothing new, then its creativity automatically gets stifled. Then assessment of only a few traits. Correct? So it is only memory power, or to some extent ability to understand the things, is only gets tested in the scholastic education. So thus a person's human relation skills, a person's communication skills, a person's ability to withstand failure and then strike back, and the levels of perseverance, which are the traits which are more important than the knowledge or the information, are not at all tested. Correct? So the assessment is also of only one or two recognizable traits. A person who knows to market well may not end up getting good marks in marketing because he doesn't have the memory power to mug up the definitions and write it in the examination. That is the problem. And it is mere tool to employment. Most of our education system is designed in such a way that possessing of that that degree should help the degree holder to land in a job with very good salary package. So thus these are some of the limitations of scholastic education. So thus the purpose does not get served here because of these limitations. Then friends, now we have criticized scholastic education big time. But as I have already told you, our essay should always be critical, or should contain points criticizing the topic itself. So does that mean that scholastic education is of no use? No, it also serves a purpose. The first one is it offers a perspective. See, a student who does not get educated in a formal schooling system does not know where to apply his mind, does not, at least it gives him a perspective. So let us say a student who studies social economics, for that matter, he is given choices. He is made to understand capitalism and socialism. So then at least it gives him a perspective as to what is good. Should the government control the means of production so that the resources can be equitably distributed, or should the means of production be left to the market forces? So at least some perspective is given. Correct? So then he would at least, while sitting in an economics class in a socialist country, would understand though these are all the restrictions if I have to start a business. Or if he is in a capitalist country, he would understand, so that means the government allows me to do whatever I want. So that actually gives him a motivation. So this everything, scholastic education at least offers them a perspective. What is there in the world? What is there in the society? So thus it is important. It's utility cannot be ruled out totally. Then human relations. See friends, when would a person's human relation skills develop? Only when an individual is exposed to other individuals from various backgrounds. Correct? So if you just interact with your family members and does not go out and interact with the outside world, you would not understand the problems of others. You would not understand you would not understand human beings per se. There are varied individuals. There are individuals with high levels of achievement spirit. There are individuals who are very timid. There are individuals who are courageous. There are individuals who are emotionally strong. There are individuals who are emotionally weak. Correct? So you have to interact with every type of individual to understand, to know how to keep up relationships, how to deal with different individuals differently. Correct? So thus, what best place other than the school to learn and understand, to improve one's human relations, friends? So because it is in schools, you start interacting with your peers from various social backgrounds. You have peers from rich background, you have peers from poor background, you have peers from middle class background. Similarly, you have peers coming from business families, you have peers coming from families of government servants, you have peers coming from the families of first time entrepreneurs, you have peers coming from the families of politicians, social workers, social entrepreneurs, what not, friends. So thus it is only school that would actually expose an individual to the various aspects of society. Don't you think so? So thus human relations are very, very, very important. Though it is not the objective of scholastic education mostly to develop human relation skills, yet the setup of the school has this advantage of indirectly imparting human relation skills in individuals. Correct? So next, discipline. Friends, it is the school that brings discipline. You have to go to school at 10 o'clock, come what may. So you wake up soon and be ready and attend the prayer at 10 a.m. every day. Then you have tests, you have annual examinations, you have unit tests, etc., etc. So that actually makes a person more and more disciplined. Because some target is given, a student is expected to reach the target within the time frame given. So thus this is actually simulation of real life also. So in the absence of school education, that sense of urgency, the sense of sticking to time, that is punctuality, the sense of not procrastinating things unnecessarily would never get incorporated into anyone's personality. So discipline is brought in by scholastic education. Then competitive spirit, friends, all said and done, it is the competitive spirit that keeps the world moving. Okay, if not for this competitive spirit, the world would have ended. Everybody is not a self-motivated individual, right? A person, if he is a self-motivated individual, he would take things at his own pace. He would be a laid-back individual. But it is the school that builds the competitive spirit. So I have to perform better than others. At least it gives the sense of how difficult it is to surpass others in this world. So thus that competitive spirit is extremely important. The last thing is knowledge. Friends, we cannot overrule or we cannot rule out the utility of knowledge in anybody's life. A person, so that means the more knowledgeable a person is, the better equipped an individual in dealing with various circumstances. So thus knowledge is important. Then last one is gender sensitization. Friends, it is only schools that exposes every individual to the other gender. Of course, to some extent this exclusively girls schools, colleges or boys schools, colleges are an exception, but they are very minimal, right? It is that gender sensitization, respecting the other gender, understanding the emotions of other genders, all will happen only in a formal school system. So these are all the advantages or the merits of scholastic education. So the scholastic education is not that bad. It has its own advantages attached to it. Then friends, after debating the advantages and disadvantages of scholastic education, now we have to give some solution, right? We cannot just keep quiet and say that no, this is all bad or this is all good. So perhaps the best education is something that actually incorporates both knowledge as well as application. As I told you, the previous example of geography, so we know India map, but yet we don't have the skill set to draw a map of our own locality. Correct? Perhaps both has to be given. A person should be exposed to the world map. A person should be allowed to draw a map of his own. So thus, knowledge and application both are important. A person who is enrolled into an MBA program should be allowed to set up his own business, should be allowed to work as an intern so that his skill sets are put to use. Correct? So of course that is the whole reason why many business schools are now coming up with this incubation centers where the students are allowed or given an ecosystem wherein their ideas can be converted to business products. Correct? So this both are essential. Only knowledge without application would not serve any purpose. So knowledge plus application should be the key term. Then wholesome personality development, I already told you. A person, there should be adequate focus on physical health. There should be adequate focus on improving mental alertness and critical thinking of the individual. Then of course that moral soundness is essential. Then spiritual awareness is also needed. Only when a person is allowed, only when an education system creates an individual with all these dimensions. Of course, some persons may be physically very good, some persons may be mentally very alert, but at least everyone should have a basic standards in all these four dimensions. Then only the education system would have produced the best individuals who would contribute to the development of mankind. Independence. Friends, all said and done, the education system should make individuals think independently, do things independently. That means a graduate who stepping out of school or college should have the confidence to start his own enterprises, to take up the life on his own. That independence is actually missing. I mean, most of the school pass outs today, college pass outs today would be actually looking for some job, or they would be just doing what other peers are doing. They would not be doing anything independently. They don't know what their heart wants. So they just, every friend of them applied for, chose science optionals in +1, +2, so they chose science. And most of them chose engineering as their graduation stream, so they chose graduation mein engineering. So at least a person who may be good at cooking would not think of hotel management. Maybe a person who is really good at baking, he would not think of a course in baking. So thus that independence is altogether missing. So if the education allows a person to think independently, decide independently, do things on his own, then that is the another great contribution or the great expectation from education. Then finally, ethics. Friends, even if education system creates individuals with high intelligence, with high physical fitness, yet those individuals don't have ethical sense. Of course, this is already covered in this wholesome personality development, yet it is important for us to exclusively specifically touch upon that, because if individuals, an intelligent, physically fit individuals without ethical sense is a very deadly combination, friends. They would be, if intelligent people turn criminals, then it is very difficult to catch them. If intelligent people turn to be selfish businessmen, then they would exploit the society to the greatest possible way, to the greatest possible extent. So thus that ethics is extremely important. So thus, if all these things are ensured in the school, then perhaps education need not be what remains after one has forgotten what one has learnt in the school. If all these things are implemented in full spirit, then education becomes nothing other than what is learnt in the school, friends. Okay. So thus, this is how we can conclude, friends. So after this elaborate discussion, so though the scholastic education is beset with many limitations, yet there is still scope for plugging those limitations if the education system is tweaked in such a way that the loopholes or the limitations of scholastic education are made good, and every education system every school comes up with various programs in order to develop wholesome personality, then education would be would not be what remains after one has forgotten what one has learnt in school. It would be what one has learnt in school. Thank you, friends. Let's meet next week with another topic.